In a parallel universe of skill, courage, and danger, 12 teams are represented by 24 elite superhumans. We know them as the best of the best. Coupled with the most advanced technology, a supercar. The two of them are almost one. Look closer, you will see the man in the machine. Look again, you will see the machine in the man. Without one another, they are nothing. Every superhero needs a supercar. This is not science fiction. This is Formula One.
Jenson Button's a winner again. It's Sebastian Vettel. Barrichello versus Button.
We are world champions!
2009. It came and went in a blur. Jenson's glorious season is a lot to live up to, but Formula One has an uncanny knack of raising the bar, and expectations for 2010 are higher than ever for very good reasons.
I'm so excited because this could be an amazing season, and if it's not, we're doing something seriously wrong.
3 new teams joined Formula One.
Lotus, Virgin, and of course the Hispania team.
This year there's no refueling. Big difference. We haven't seen that since 1993.
Well, one of the big changes was the point system.
You've got to go for the victory.
What I'm really excited about for this year is the fact we've got 4 world champions out there on the grid.
4 world champions on the grid.
All in top cars with a real chance of victory.
Alonso with Ferrari for the first time, double world champion.
He looks really hot out on track.
A lot of people's favourites.
I think it's a very interesting season. I'm looking forward.
Jenson Button, the reigning world champion, moves to McLaren.
Big speculation in Britain, it's a huge source of excitement.
A bold move into Lewis Hamilton's backyard.
And that's his team. He's been part of the DNA of that team for 10 years.
Button wants to show that he's a worthy world champion. He's the top grip.
This season could be one of the best seasons.
But the daddy of them all, Michael Schumacher, makes his return.
He's 41 years old. Has he still got what it takes?
Can he deliver? Can he add an 8th world title?
Was it the right thing to do? Who knows? He thinks it's the right thing to do, and he could be right there in the mix to be the champion.
Top driver, so closer competition.
We mustn't forget Felipe Massa coming back from his accident in Hungary last year. Obviously got a point to prove. Mark Webber in at Red Bull. Sebastian Vettel, who almost won the title, came very close last season.
It looks very tight at the top. A tough fight. Only one can win.
New teams, new drivers, but in Formula One, some things always stay the same. Winning is everything.
What a season this is going to be.
I haven't been this excited since late 80s, early 90s when we had the sort of Mansells, Piquets, Prost, Senna's. It's just going to be a titanic battle for the championship.
This has everything. Mouth-watering stuff. I can't wait for it to start. Well, here we go then. It's time for the talking to stop and the driving to begin. After 5 months of waiting, the 2010 Formula One season's upon us, and I'm sure that you're as excited as I am about hanging out with a couple of guys who we all enjoyed hearing from last season. And here they are, Jenson Button and Lewis Hamilton, the two most recent Formula One world champions. Which one are you then, DC or EJ?
I'm Jenson.
Good, and you'll be hoping to prove that you are Jenson, the Formula One world champion this year. How's it going? Two world champions in the same team, you enjoying this?
Yes, it's not going too bad, is it? It's going alright, I think. Yeah, it's alright. We've spent quite a bit of time together working on the car and doing PR. We're doing quite a lot of PR. But it's all been positive though. We've been getting on all right. So.
Brilliant. Okay, well, go well this weekend. Enjoy the season. A big season for both of these guys, and it all starts right here this weekend in the Bahrain desert. And the first challenge for the drivers this year is to kick off with a strong race at a difficult circuit. If you haven't kept fit over the winter, or if the new car isn't performing as it should, then this place will punish you. The three big straights will test the engine, the bumps, the heat, and 23 turns over 6 kilometres will certainly test the drivers. And examinations just keep on coming during an extended season that will see Formula One reaching new frontiers, with the Korean Grand Prix providing the unknown element to an exhausting schedule that doesn't wrap up until race 19 in mid-November. So a long but exciting season for the drivers and for us as well. With us every single step of the way, my true friends, David Coulthard and Eddie Jordan. Lovely to see you both, and nice to have a little look at Jenson and Lewis, looking very relaxed in each other's company there, as are you two. Nice to see you've kept your tans over the winter. And actually, it was a winter where with every passing week, the stories about Formula One just ramped up a little bit more every time, didn't they?
Yeah, as we went through the winter, as you say, with this no refuelling, we were all curious to see in testing just how that would play out. You know, these cars have now got to carry 160 plus kilograms of fuel. So testing was really mixed up and trying to read the form. So the other big story, of course, was Michael Schumacher coming back. You know, can he still do it at 41 years old? So, you know, we're going to see a real life experiment being played out here in Bahrain.
And what do you think, Eddie? What of all of those things really stands out to you?
Well, I must say, for me, I'm just so glad to see new teams. Everyone is down in doom and gloom, and suddenly 3 new teams come and pop up. Where they get the money from is beyond me, but they're a huge welcome asset to what we're seeing here.
OK, so new teams, new drivers, new circuits, plenty of change this year, but thankfully some things always stay the same. We've got Ted Kravitz to keep us up to date with all of the changes for 2010 and some of the big stories from the opening weekend of the season.
An eye-catching innovation that's made news at the first race comes from McLaren, a clever device that's worth up to 0.4 of a second per lap. This funnel enables air from the top of the car to be drawn through the engine cover fin and onto the rear wing, giving the car a straight-line speed advantage. It's caused controversy as rival teams believe it's against the spirit of the regulations, but it works. Jenson Button was over 5 miles an hour quicker than Sebastian Vettel in the speed trap. This season's most significant rule change, though, is the ban on refuelling. This means cars must start with a full tank of fuel to last the entire race. The cars will be heavy and difficult to drive at the start. Of course, if your car has a fuel-efficient engine like the Renault and the Red Bull, you'll be lighter and faster in the opening laps. This could be worth as much as 7 seconds over a race distance. Drivers will still have to stop the tyres. Both the hard and the soft tyre must be used during the race. If you do reach the end, there are now points all the way down to 10th, with a greater gap between first and second to encourage drivers to take a few chances to go for the win rather than settling for second place. And if we get racing incidents on track that require a penalty, experienced former F1 drivers will form part of the stewards panel. At this race, it's the 4-time world champion Alain Prost. Prospective future stewards include Damon Hill, Johnny Herbert, Jean Alesi and Nigel Mansell.
Nigel Mansell, of course, a man who enjoyed having number 1 on his car, and you won't need reminding who that belongs to this season. For the first time in his career, Jenson Button is the defending world champion. But these new big super-sized fuel tanks have really changed the way Formula One looks at the moment. If I walk up here, you can see just how long the MP425 is at the moment, and that's because they've got to get so much fuel into this part of the car. Now, what that meant was that in pre-season testing, when you can normally work out who's good and who's bad, we couldn't do that at all because perhaps someone was a bit slow, but they were carrying loads of fuel. Maybe some people were super fast, but just running on fumes and trying to get the headlines. Well, yesterday afternoon, the game was up. Cards on the table. Who's quick and who's slow? The first qualifying session of the season. Pole position was up for grabs. Here's Lee McKenzie.
It was time for the talking to stop, the action to start, and the true pace of the teams to be revealed. Qualifying in Bahrain was underway. The Before quali, new team Hispania Racing had only run Bruno Senna's car, which meant rookie Karun Chandok had never turned a wheel. His first venture into F1 came in the highly charged session. He props up the grid, but was just happy to get out on track.
I think the lap time was respectable, but there's so many things we can improve on the car. I mean, I'm not even comfortable in the seat. My bum's off the bottom of the car.
Best of the new teams was the Virgin racing car of Timo Glock, and after plenty of problems in testing, he was relieved to be 19th.
Overall, I think a positive first qualifying for us, and I hope we can finish the race tomorrow.
Battling hard for his new Williams team, Rubens Barrichello was sitting pretty in the top 10. That was until his ex-Braun teammate knocked him out in the dying seconds.
Jenson Button is 10th.
I think it's a good place to start our first race, where we're still not happy with our performance, but we have new tires tomorrow. Hopefully that can give us something.
One person smiling though was Force India's Adrian Sutil, who edged through, eventually qualifying in 10th. It wasn't the dream return for Michael Schumacher that many had hoped for. The 7-time world champion had to settle for 7th and was out-qualified by his teammate Nico Rosberg.
The race is a long race. We'll see, and the year is even longer.
The all-Brit McLaren lineup had a mixed day, with Button getting used to his new charge. He starts from 8th, but Hamilton is pretty happy further up the field in 4th.
Oh, absolutely overwhelmed with that position. I think that's great for us, a great starting point, and I hope tomorrow we're going to just try and either keep the position or take one more if possible.
It was getting better and better every lap I did out there, so I was reasonably happy, but yeah, at the end it wasn't so good, and something just feels a little bit wrong, so we need to look at that.
Just when Ferrari thought they had the 1-2, Sebastian Vettel blitzed through, claiming a stunning pole position.
What a time there for Sebastian Vettel!
Alonso starts from 3rd and was out-qualified by the delighted Felipe Massa in 2nd.
After everything that happened to me last year, I think it's a great comeback. I'm very happy, and I hope we can have a good start of the race.
The lap was not ideal, but it's the way it is. Anyway, I'm happy with 3rd position, starting on the clean side.
So over a second splits Vettel from Hamilton in 4th, and the German was pretty surprised.
We had some new bits arriving last minute. The mechanics didn't get a lot of sleep, but everyone is extremely keen and pushing hard, and it's the best answer you can give.
So Sebastian Vettel sits on pole with the Ferraris behind. Lewis Hamilton is the best of the Brits in 4th. It was a good day for Nico Rosberg in 5th, with teammate Michael Schumacher 7th. Button is 8th, and Renault new recruit Robert Kubica is 9th. Rookie Nico Hülkenberg is a respectable 13th, with returnee Pedro Della Rosa alongside. It was a bad day for Jaime Alguersuari, who could only manage 18th. The 2 Lotus cars start 20th and 21st, and the Hispania cars will start from the pit lane.
So it was a big day for Sebastian Vettel, and you can just see the interest actually. We've got the former Formula 1 world champion Niki Lauda just around there working for RTL Germany. Camera crews all around Sebastian's new car, which he's nicknamed Luscious Liz for this year. That's a nice name for the car.
Yeah, he seems to have a new lady's name each year, which is interesting.
Yes, it was Kate's dirty sister last year. Kate's dirty sister was lucky. He'll hope that this car is just as lucky for him. And certainly it looks like Red Bull have produced another special car.
This, for me, is the real pace setter. This is a fantastic car. It's slower in the straight line, but it's so quick in the corners, and that's the way you want it, because you can work on the overall speed down the straight with aero and various other things. They've got a fantastic car to start the season with.
Well, as we've just seen, courtesy of Lee, we all went to bed last night thinking that Red Bull and Ferrari had stolen a march on their rivals. And in terms of speed, Ferrari have got it, but bad news for them today. 2 engine changes at the first race of the season.
Yeah, we don't know exactly what that is. It could be a precaution. They could have picked up some small traces of metal when they do the oil samples afterwards, and they just, they've got the luxury of having some spare engines, so why not do it early doors and remove any risk at the first Grand Prix?
Let's take just a little wander over here, because this is Michael Schumacher's garage, his Silver Arrow, preparing for its first race back in Formula 1. Not the greatest start to Michael Schumacher's season, though. He was sort of half a second behind Nico Rosberg for most of the weekend, and eventually qualified about 3/10 behind him. Is he realising how tough Formula 1 actually is at the moment?
Well, I can't imagine he would have thought that would be a nice way to start the season, with that grid position, and also, as you say, being a few tenths behind Nico. That's not something he was used to last time he was racing in Formula 1. And, you know, we've got to give him a couple of races, I guess. But if it's still like that by the time we get back to Europe, then it's going to get really, really quite interesting, because he's not comfortable in that position.
No, Michael will be popping into the back of the garage very shortly, jumping in this car, hoping that this one can help him to add to those 7 world titles. He starts from 7th on the grid today. And as a driver, he always divided opinions of everybody. And the same applies to his comeback, really. However, it won't surprise you to know there's one man who thinks the comeback is the perfect decision.
People watching this on the BBC may remember about 18 months ago you did an interview with us and you said, I can't return to F1.
There's nothing to do.
I will only lose, and I don't like losing.
I don't like losing.
What's changed?
It's very hard, even sometimes for myself, to understand why I came to this conclusion and why I'm suddenly again full of fire. Probably the hunger of some more fun. I've been doing karting, motorbikes, but I sort of arrived very quickly to the point that I was winning races and not having the same challenge at the same level as I was having in Formula One. And because of different combinations, it sort of triggered, why not again?
Is there a moment that you can sort of pick out in your mind as the moment that you thought, right, I'm going to do this, I'm going to return to the sport?
It all was sort of initiated by summertime.
So Michael Schumacher is returning to Formula One with Ferrari.
He found that his 40-year-old neck could no longer stand the strain. The dream for millions of motor racing fans has come to a shuddering halt.
Before, I always was thinking, okay, I'm out of this sport, I'm 40 years old, you won't be able to do it anymore. There's no way. But sitting in summer in the car, despite having my pain and my problem, it was even surprising to myself how quickly I got on with it again. And I immediately felt, well, I'm not seconds off, neither I'm tenths off, I'm there. I thought, it's probably something special.
Emotionally and mentally, physically, how do you think you're going to cope with this season? Are you as confident as ever?
I am, yeah. I mean, it's not a secret what it needs to be fit and to be prepared. I know very well what is the preparation level needed. I feel good. The cars are very good to drive, and now it's up as a team to work the package to its maximum and develop to its maximum in order to stand out by the end up front.
Can you win the title this year?
We fight for it.
How do you feel looking at the guys on the grid? Because there's probably championship challenges coming from 6, 8, maybe even 10 drivers there, isn't there?
I think you have a big group of good drivers in combination with very good cars. The only difference to before is that now there is more cars competitive, not there's more drivers competitive. Because to drive those cars to the limit, it's slightly easier. It needs less skill because cars were much more difficult in the past to drive at the limit.
Do you think in some ways taking this break could make you a better driver?
It certainly makes me a better driver than I was by the end of 2.5 and 2.6. This no doubt, because already I was kind of empty and tired. But it's to be found out. I haven't found yet anything that I'm suffering, that I'm down on, but so far it was only testing.
You ready for this?
I have to prove it, and I will do so.
So it was a confident, if slightly cold, Michael Schumacher when I caught up with him. It'll be interesting to find out how he feels in his head right now, because of course his new teammate Nico Rosberg out-qualified him in the first qualifying session of the new year. So fantastic for Nico, but Michael's obviously got quite a lot to think about now. There's just half an hour to go until lights out, and there'll be quite a few changes, as Ted's already explained to us, particularly for the guys who operate these. Now, for the last 16 years, the guys on the wheel guns have been on the sort of Formula One equivalent of a holiday in the south of France. They've had 6, 7, 8 seconds to try and change a wheel. However, this year, because there's no refuelling, their job changes massively. Here's Martin Brundle.
In-race refuelling has been banned in Formula One for 2010. That's the first time since 1993. Instead of lifting a heavy fuel hose around, the limiting factor now is the time taken to change the wheels and tyres. The teams are practicing relentlessly and coming up with all sorts of ingenious devices and lights to help make that time just 3 seconds. They all want to be the fastest in the pit lane at the stops. 3 men per wheel, 1 on each front and rear jack, men standing by to clean out the side pods for any debris, and of course the lollipop man if you're not using a traffic light system. That surely is the worst job in the world this year. No time to hesitate, you could lose the team the race, but if you release your car into the path of another, you'll get a drive-through penalty. Practice makes perfect, of course, and every second counts. But it'll be different in the race. The car will be approaching at 60 miles an hour, it'll be boiling hot, and the pressure will really be on. Then we'll see which team has really got it right.
So, new look pit stops, just one of the reasons it's set to be a very different looking season, and a season that you can keep across in a variety of ways. You can watch today's race at BBC Sport Online with additional data feeds. Press the red button to hear commentary from David Croft and Jacques Villeneuve via Radio 5 Live. And the iPlayer will make sure you don't miss the turn of a wheel. And of course, after the race today, either on the BBC Sport website or via the red button, you can join us for the F1 Forum. There'll be all sorts of things to talk about. Of course, it's the first race of the year, so make sure that you press red and join us for that. We'd also welcome your Twitter comments and also your emails as well. But as much as Formula One is all about technological advances, what's really special about this year is that it's about the human element as well. And if we just take a look down there, you can pretty much make out Jenson Button preparing to start his defence of his title. And just 3 feet away from him all season long, Lewis Hamilton will be hoping to stop him. It's just one of a very special story.
Thank you very much for coming out this evening. Thank you. Too kind. Hold your applause. This is your song, not mine.
First question for you, Lewis, is what are the 3 pieces of advice to be successful at McLaren?
3 pieces of advice.
Is he going to tell me anyway?
No, to be successful here, you just got to get close in with your engineers and maximize communication.
Basically, it's the same as every team.
Let's spice it up. We need some music. How do you feel entering the new season as the man to beat?
It's the way Formula One is that, you know, there are so many drivers to beat. I don't feel that I'm the only person to beat out there because
it's the same for me.
Exactly. So it's such a competitive sport, and you're not out there on your own. To win a world championship, you need everything. It's not just the driver. You need the package. You need,
Yeah, but you've got the number 1 in the car, so you're generally the target.
Yeah.
When you're number 1, you're generally the target.
For many things.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love this sort of interview. It's great. This is a good one, I think. How dangerous a competitor is Fernando in a Ferrari?
Oh, I think he's gonna be our main competitor this year.
Yeah.
No joke. He's probably the best driver I've driven against.
Yeah.
You go out on your practice lap, you do a good lap, you come back in, you find he's gone like 2 tenths quicker, and you're like, that was a damn good lap.
Yeah.
But I think now he's in that Ferrari. Remember we watched Fizzy in the Ferrari last year and wondered why he was there. So Fernando's just got in straight like that, and he's flying.
He's in his comfort zone, isn't he?
Yeah, I think Felipe is going to have his hands full.
What did you learn most with a difficult season in 2009?
I had to be really strong, I think, and I wasn't always strong. Sometimes I was like, the car is a dog, because sometimes you just have to say what you feel.
Yeah.
But generally, I was just trying my hardest to keep the team motivated, because you can imagine the guys back here, they worked so hard to put that car together, and it was a dog.
And they see you on TV, and that's the problem. You're the focus is on you and Martin. I've been in that position, obviously, a few more times. So I'm pretty used to that situation. But yeah, it's difficult, and especially if you have a couple of years where the car's not competitive, because you're so down, and you're supposed to be the one that's strong and positive.
Yeah. How did you feel slipping into the McLaren for the first time?
High and uncomfortable. Yeah, my seat.
You had a dodgy seat, didn't you?
My seat took a while to get right.
Yeah. By the way, I messed that up for you.
Oh, did you?
Yeah,
Thanks,
I went
man.
and did some calculations wrong.
Sorry, have you seen yours lately? I sprayed it pink. It's lovely.
Yeah. I can pull off pink, so that's all good.
when you want something changed, they change it as quick as they can. So that's with a lot of things. So that's positive.
Not with everything. When I was first here, I would say I need this, and they didn't do it. And then Fernando would say, I want a new shoelace, and it came. And then eventually things kind of got better. Yeah. What's the best thing about being world champion?
Being world champion.
Chicks. No, I'm joking. What is the best thing?
Being world champion.
Yeah.
Well, that is the best thing, isn't it? You don't really have enough time to enjoy that.
Yeah.
And you're straight back into the next season.
But you wouldn't want to anyway. How much time do you need to enjoy it? You go and have a party for one night, and
no,
then you get on to
you know what I mean?
Don't lie. You're the biggest party animal.
So, mate, what were you doing last night?
Huh?
What were you doing last night?
I had piano lessons.
Oh, cool, man.
Yeah.
What makes the ideal teammate?
What makes an ideal teammate? I don't really know. Haven't yet experienced the ideal teammate. That's a good answer.
You didn't have that with Fernando?
Yes and no. I think in terms of the driver side of things, he was the ideal teammate because you just kept pushing. But on the other side of working together, it wasn't perfect. So I think having the ideal teammate is obviously having the quick, competitive, extremely fast driver who's awesome, pushing you to the limit. But then also having someone that's cool out of the car that you can get along with well and is respectful and is good for the team morale. You know, works with the team. Yeah, and works with the. Whilst of course you're here to be world champion and be the best you can. In the you want to get number one in your own car, you still got to bear in mind that you got a team behind you.
Yeah.
And it's not just you. Who wrote these?
Pointing fingers.
You're fired. Oh, what happened to the lights?
Well, they went out, and it's lights out again very shortly. Just over 20 minutes until the race gets going. And how about this for a nice innovation here at McLaren? Instead of having the two respective sets of race engineers the other end of the garage from each other, they're all on this lovely central island, so they can all be best of friends for the whole season long. And how long will that last, Eddie Jordan?
Actually, I think it's going to last for the season because it's in their interest to do so. They're very sensible, both world champions. If they start fighting with each other, it's over, and they're not that silly. You don't become a world champion if you're silly, and they're not silly. So I'd give this a very good chance of being successful.
I was interested to hear Lewis talk about Fernando being his strongest teammate. I mean, it's quite a thing to say to your new teammate, isn't it?
Yeah, I was actually surprised that there wasn't a reaction there from Jensen at that point, because obviously when they did the interview, they'd been out testing together. So, yeah, I think that I agree with Eddie that they won't have any fallouts, certainly publicly. There will be inevitably disagreements behind the scenes because, you're both fighting for the same thing. You both want to win, and 2-1 doesn't go.
No, it doesn't. At the moment, it's 1-0 to Lewis Hamilton. He starts fourth. Jenson Button starts eighth on the grid, and the grid is where we're headed now. Martin Brundle with his first grid walk of the new season. Martin, that is a nice-looking car.
Yeah, welcome to the grid. Look at this. Beautiful new safety car, the SLS, very sexy. Tell you what's not sexy, this could be the grid walk from hell. The drivers, physios are not allowed on the grid today, so we think the drivers are just going to leg it into the garages out of the sun, take their final preparations. We'll see if we can find somebody. What we have found is one of my old mates here, Gerhard Berger. What do you think to all this, Gerhard? Are you missing being a team boss?
I'm missing to be a race driver like you. But yes, even the team boss was a great thing. But it's also to be nice here and be relaxed and just watch the others and criticize all the mistakes, without any responsibility. So it's also a good thing to do.
Do you think we'll take it with us to our grave, regretting ever giving up driving racing cars?
Well, I think when I remember back, it was such a great life, and it's such a nice thing to drive one of these cars on the limit. So if you're born again, you would love to do the same again.
That's for sure. Good to see you. I often show you down to the first corner. It's critical here because for the first time they're going to start on full tanks of fuel. It's like putting two very heavy men in the Formula One cars with them, around 170 kilograms, that they're going to charge down there and guessing the braking point into the first corner and getting it right. I think many will be too cautious, some will be brave. I'm expecting Lewis to be charging down in there, trying to make up positions. Could be one of the most critical starts for a long time. The Bahrain police band here waiting to play the national anthem at 46 minutes past the hour. Now, also because they're not carrying their fuel from qualifying, the drivers don't necessarily have to just creep around and park their cars on the grid. So some of them are not even here yet. 2 Ferraris have changed engines, of course. I don't know if Sebastian Vettel stuck with it. Katie, did Sebastian stay on the grid?
No, he's gone.
He's gone for good, has he? I'll have a quick word with Christian Horner then, because the tactics this afternoon are going to be absolutely fascinating. Christian, your car's on pole position. What's it going to take to win this race? It's not going to be easy, is it?
No, it's going to be a big challenge with the red cars behind. I mean, the problem a little bit we've got is those guys can probably split their strategy. So tyre wear is going to be crucial. So we're going to rely heavily on the driver to be informing us about the balance, about degradation. But Seb seemed very happy with his car on Friday afternoon, so we're hopefully not expecting too many problems.
I'm expecting a row of strategists and computers smoking halfway through the race as they're trying to work out what to do, whether to pit your cars and drop them back into clear air, or just you're going to have to, it's going to be like who's trigger happy, isn't it? Just diving into the pits.
Yeah, it's very difficult because last year with the fuel dictated the stop, so you knew when everybody was stopping, whereas now we have no idea what the competitors are going to do. So it's all going to be about brinkmanship, it's going to be about looking for clear air. It's going to be a fascinating afternoon.
Let's hope so. Good luck. Right, let's dive down. Rory Bremner. Rory, have you met anybody of any... Oh, Emmo, how are you doing? I didn't see you there. Good to see you.
On the parade lap, he actually overtook Josh Hill, wasn't it?
He was tough in the braking. I managed. Was a great.
You're not supposed to overtake on the parade lap.
Was so much fun.
Yeah, we haven't seen that parade in our show. Emmo, the drivers are not on the grid because their physios have not allowed with it. They don't have passes to get on now. How crazy is that? I mean, we didn't have physios helping us, but how do you feel about that?
Well, I think it should be open for the ex-champions. I mean, we all made the history in motor race. Like yourself, we all have to be here. I mean, we are the heart of motor race.
Good to see you. We'll see you later on. Good to see you guys. Let's dive in. Your Royal Highness is Crown Prince of Bahrain. How are you, sir?
It's great to see you all here. I'm doing very well, thanks.
It's nice to be back. The 7th race here, and we've got a longer track this year. What's the philosophy behind that?
It's to add more spirit and more character to the track. We've got to work on a few issues, though. There's one bump in particular I want to get out of the road by next year.
Now, we need bumps in the track. The drivers would all like to sit in a billiard table with a PlayStation rig. They don't, you don't put a few more bumps in, I would say.
As a motorsport enthusiast, I just hate these tracks which are just long straights and heavy braking areas and 90-degree turns. I want to see something more exciting and a little bit more characterful. So that's why we did it.
Thank you very much. I'm going to see if I can find a peddler not a peddler who drives racing cars, that is. Right. Let's see. We might be lucky if they're leaning up against the barrier. Normally you'd find a row of them, wouldn't you, with their umbrellas and their physios. I want to find Bernie and ask him why these guys haven't got a pass, because you've got all these celebrities, all these interested people want to see the drivers. This is a unique opportunity. We can't see Beckham just before he kicks a ball. We can't see Federer just before he serves his first serve. But we can normally talk to the drivers, and thank God we got some legends on the grid. Mario Andretti and, of course, Nigel Mansell. Mario, great to see you back in F1.
Oh, wonderful, Martin. Yes, it's been a great weekend here to revisit with our old friends here and having some time with our cars, old cars. Reacquainting our girlfriends, if you will.
Oh, really?
Well, they have 4 wheels.
Okay, good stuff. Nigel, how did you enjoy driving your Van Wall?
It was an awesome experience, Martin, as you know, and I'm glad I was born when I did, because I couldn't have driven those cars, but the experience of driving it was fantastic. But it's great to be here. What a wonderful event. 60 years. Amazing, isn't it?
It's good to see you. I'm going to see if I can doorstep Alonso. I'm about to get 7 elbows in my ribs. I wouldn't be at all surprised. And we have 20 seconds left, and then I'm out of here. So I won't hold you up. What do you think, Luca? Can we? And then I've got to go because we got. Hang on.
Algunos datos que tenían que no estaban seguros y nada, utilizaremos ese motor para otra carrera.
No pasa nada, tú no estás nervioso.
Yo no.
Bueno, no cambia nada la estrategia de carrera para hoy, ¿no?
No cambia nada. Empezar a hacer una buena carrera, es importante coger puntos, pasar la meta y...
Fernando, you...
¿Darás una parada?
Okay, mate. That's plenty of questions.
Veremos haremos una parada. Esa es la idea inicial, pero vamos a ser muy flexibles y vamos a estar pendientes de cómo van los neumáticos. Si vemos que hay mucha degradación, pues pararemos 2 veces.
Te lo dije ayer, se puede ganar.
Saliendo tercero es mejor que salir más atrás, ¿no? Hay que hacer una buena salida y luego que vaya todo bien.
One question. I got one question. Fernando, coming a quick word for BBC. Change the engine. Are you worried about that?
No, I was worried maybe before. Now it's okay. I think the team wants to finish this race 100%, and for that we changed the engine.
You must be favourite to win this race.
I think we are in a good position to try to win the race, but obviously we want to be also in the podium. It's only the first race of the championship. We need to start scoring good points.
Thanks for your time. Bye-bye.
Martin Brundle queuing. I never thought I'd see the day. And interesting, actually, to hear Fernando Alonso talking about getting off to a good start. Of course, with 25 points up for grabs now for the win, it's really important to hit the ground running. But Fernando Alonso, he knows all about driving in Formula One. What about the 5 new rookies taking part? And one of them is walking in some pretty famous footsteps.
Well, Bruno, here we are, walking around the Bahrain Grand Prix circuit. Your dream to be a Grand Prix driver, but it hasn't really been a dream start for you. What do you realistically expect for this weekend?
Definitely it's been a quite difficult few months for us, whereas everything has gone a bit difficult for the finances, but finally we are here, and this is the positive thing. For sure, we have to take it step by step, focus on performance, and then see if we can be together with the new teams and then hopefully overtake them.
We've just been overtaken by Lewis Hamilton and his crew, so they're even walking more quickly than we are. Is that something that you're expecting this weekend, to be seeing a few cars lapping you, or are you hoping for more out of the performance?
Nah, for sure. We expect to be lapped, but that's a way that we like to have, to be lapped. If we're obviously in the race for long enough to be lapped, that's a good sign.
Turn 1 on the Bahrain circuit, how are you approaching that? Obviously the Grand Prix, you're going to have everyone arriving there with 160 kilos of fuel on board.
We have nothing to win from overtaking 2 cars on the back of the grid and risking damaging the car, so for sure it's going to be a race where the laps count more than anything else.
New section of the Grand Prix circuit. It's a big unknown for everybody. What's your gut feeling having walked around the track there?
Well, honestly, I don't understand why they put this new section in the track. It's a bit slow. It's going to be quite a challenge for these cars that are so heavy now in the beginning of the race. But in the end of the day, it's what we have to deal with.
Have you got a friend in the paddock who's working with one of the other teams, another driver, for instance, who can give you some pointers and help catch up with the lack of testing?
The Brazilian Mafia is always together, so I can always ask a few questions to Rubens and Felipe, where they have plenty of data to share. I don't think they'll be giving us any papers, but some ideas for sure.
Good, excellent. Oh, well, wish you luck with that.
Thank you.
Well, Ayrton famously said, if you think I'm fast, wait till you see my nephew. And today we get our first chance to do that. A very big day indeed for Bruno Senna. One of the other new teams of Virgin Racing, Timo Glock, who's an experienced driver, is driving for them, and he's with Lee McKenzie on the grid.
Timo, you're the best of the new boys, so congratulations for that. How are things looking?
Yeah, at the moment everything okay. I think the boys are a bit nervous at the moment. First time for us on the grid, so it all has to be a procedure, and we just have to go through it and go into the race, finish it would be great, and see at the end where we are and how the car is over the race distance.
Slightly ironic that you've got your old teammate Jarno Trulli lurking on your shoulder.
Yeah, it's quite funny. I mean, last year we were in the first row. The opposite way, he was first, I was second. Now we are a couple of rows further down the grid, but still in the same row. So we'll see how it goes. I'm looking forward to the race. Maybe have a nice fight together, and I hope for all the new teams we just all have to finish the race, and that would be good for everyone.
Have a great race.
Thank you.
Well, Timo there giving us his idea of a successful weekend just to finish the race, and it shows you where these new teams are approaching from, Eddie. I think what's important is for us to explain how impressive it is just to get onto a Formula One grid with 6 months or 12 months notice.
Well, I think first of all, you've got to have the idea, then you've the concept, then you've got to find the money, then you've got to build a model car to create something through CFD, then go and try and build it. And then you've got the gearbox and the drive shaft. We all know how many parts go into a racing car. This is a daunting prospect, and unless you're really fit, you're semi-mental, and you've got buckets of money, don't even try it. I did, and I must have been out of my mind to do it on reflection. But anyway, I wish them luck, because it's a great opportunity, and they're going to enjoy this roller coaster ride all the way through.
I'm amazed that you still only look 21 years old, mate.
Thank you.
I think, we've got 3 new teams coming into the sport, and there's been quite a lot of apprehension from some of the bigger teams. It's important that Formula One doesn't just seem like a closed shop to everybody.
Well, absolutely. You need the historical names. You need your Ferraris, your McLarens, and people like that involved in the sport, I think, to give the credibility. But these new teams, these will be potentially the McLarens and Ferraris and the likes going further forward. I think a good example, of course, is Red Bull. They're in their 5th season, and they were serious championship contenders. So you all have to start somewhere. It is a very, very difficult task, even to go racing with an established team. So I don't know how they've managed it with these new teams in such a short time frame.
OK, well, there weren't too many drivers for Martin to speak to on the grid, but there were plenty of legends, and that's because, if you didn't know, this is the 60th anniversary of Formula One, and take a look at this. Every living Formula One world champion, bar 2, has been here this weekend. A huge effort by the organisers, and David, you had a little spin in an old car as well, didn't you?
Yeah, it's unusual. I didn't know that Michelle Yeoh was a world champion. I see her sitting in the front row of that graphic with Jean Todt.
I think that's who you know, not what you've done, isn't it?
Yeah, OK, well, an honorary world championship. And I'm sorry, Jake, I was so shocked by that, I didn't listen to the question.
I was just talking about the fact that we could see David Hill driving his world title winning car here. You had a little spin in a Silver Arrow, didn't you?
Yeah, I went out on track in Fangio's W196 Mercedes, and that was a real great experience. 3 laps of this Grand Prix track with no one out there. Here you are. And actually, I had the moment of all moments, a power slid, a classic Grand Prix car. So for a moment, I felt like a racing driver again. Great experience.
Eddie, I forgot how slow he was.
Well, how awkward does he looking at? Good Lord, you couldn't have possibly been a racing driver in the old era, David. You're far too tall.
I'm too skinny, I think. Fangio filled that car up. It took about 2 of me to fill that seat, I think.
Well, look, it just shows you how things have changed. So let's now talk about Formula One in the year 2010. Now, there's been a lot of talk about the fact that this new season is going to reward clever drivers. Alain Prost was the last driver to win the world title in the no refuelling era. How important is a clever driver in this situation?
Hugely important. He wasn't called a professor for nothing. Prost was absolutely brilliant. He wasn't always the quickest driver, but he was the sharpest and the smartest. And you've got to be really, really smart in these cars, particularly with the fuel, the weight level, the tyres, controlling. You've got to be very, very clever in what you're doing.
OK.
Right. Who was the smartest driver that ever drove for you?
Me.
Oh, OK.
And he was quite slow as well. Let's quickly hear from Ross Brawn. Of course, last year he took Brawn to the world title. Now he's in charge at Mercedes. Let's see what he has to say. He's with Lee.
Ross, final thoughts before the race. What's going to be key this afternoon?
Tyres. Tyres are going to be very delicate, particularly the rear tyres. So I think whoever can make the rear tyres last will have a strong performance.
And how are we going to know when they start to go off? Will that be the trigger for everybody to start coming in for the pit stop?
I guess so, yeah. I mean, you've got to look at the gaps you've got. There's going to be a lot of cars behind us on the prime tyre, so presumably they'll last longer, and it's okay going back out on your prime tyre, but if you fall into a lot of traffic that's going nowhere, it's going to be difficult. So it'll be a reactive strategy today.
Okay, thanks, Ross.
Well, Ross Brawn with Ted Kravitz there. Now, Eddie, you spent 3 years in the no refuelling era, and how did you go about sort of second-guessing your rivals and trying to get a foot over everybody else?
Well, it's a matter of just, in my case anyway,